4. Aiming at who you could be. Without a vision, the people perish. We are more than simply something that is and has been. We are in a constant state of becoming, forever marching towards some future self. When we lack a vision where our becoming is over our being, we become trapped wishing for the past, a place where we believe it was as good as it will ever get. Yet, as our own experiences reveal, this desire to reclaim the past is one that frequently ends in depression. Gradually, we come to realize that it cannot, by its very nature, be reclaimed, because it has, in fact, passed. We see it often in the athlete or the entertainer whose life falls apart as soon as they step out of the spotlight. They are stuck in the glory days and struggle to move out of the past because there's nothing to look forward to, and they pay the price of a haunted mind. Without a higher vision, without a view of the future where your becoming is over your being in some meaningful respect, your spirit dissolves. That's what I believe Proverbs is saying in 28:19. Without a vision, the people perish. This is why it remains important to have a vision for yourself where you, and thus life, are ascending towards some ideal. We all need a map that sends us upward. Like it or not, we are on a journey, and we are storytelling creatures. Whether we admit it or not, we have an ideal within us that eats at us when we are not aligned with it. Because we always know, even if only unconsciously, when we are not living up to what we are capable of, when we are not living in line with what we could be. By the end of this book, I hope that you have the tools to form for yourself a lofty vision for your life, one where you could look back and say, I lived a great story. But first, we must identify the ideal at which to aim. Identifying the ideal. Before we can make progress toward any destination, we must set our sights in the direction we wish to aim. Our first step, then, is to identify and develop a view of the ideal that we'd like to make progress toward. Fortunately for us, the inheritors of all world literature up to this point, our ancestors have done us the favor of leaving a lot of clues and stories. They have sung and written about what the best among us have accomplished throughout the ages. Along humanity's timeline, the bards and poets, from Homer to Tolkien, have filled our imagination with visions of what we might be. With their epic adventures and heroes that earn our admiration, their stories seem to speak to something deep within us, almost as if they, the personifications of our ancestral potential, are trying to get us to remember something about ourselves. You might even consider the heroes that populate the old stories as something like ambassadors of the ideal, delivering messages to you on how to join them. It's not an accident that in our own lives, when we see ourselves answer the calls to adventure as the heroes do, we witness ourselves flourish in ways we hadn't imagined. As we expose ourselves to new experiences, we tap into latent potential and activate those dormant fragments sleeping inside us. We rescue capabilities built into us over our evolutionary history that had previously been lost to time. We see what we could be in the mirrors that are myths. An unforgettable story captures the essence of humanity and distills, communicates, and clarifies it, bringing what we are and what we should be into focus. It speaks to us and motivates the attention that inspires us to imitate. We learn to see and act in a manner of the heroes of the stories that captivate us. These stories call to capacities that lie deep within our nature, but might still never develop without that call. We are dormant adventurers, lovers, leaders, artists, and rebels, but need to discover that we are all those things by seeing the reflections of such patterns in dramatic and literary form. This is part of being a creature that is part nature and part culture. An unforgettable story advances our capacity to understand our behavior, beyond habit and expectation, toward an imaginative and verbalized understanding. Question: who are you? Or, at least, who could you be? Answer: part of that eternal force that constantly confronts the terrible unknown, voluntarily. Part of the internal force that transcends naivete and becomes dangerous enough, in a controlled manner, to understand evil and beard it in its lair. And part of the eternal force that faces chaos and turns it into productive order, or that takes order that has become too restrictive, reduces it to chaos, and renders it productive once again. When it comes to answering the question of who we might be, we can look to stories. Indeed, the best stories throughout time to gather material. They invite us to identify for ourselves what is of value, what we ought to aim at, and what we could be. The best of the characters we find there represent the best of what is in us, our potential to be history's latest avatar of the hero calling to us. You must change your life. Leave the ranger behind. Become who you were born to be. I lay there weightlessly with the buoyancy produced by thousands of pounds of Epsom salt keeping me afloat. My eyes were open, but I couldn't see or feel a thing. Or, at least, I think my eyes were open. Honestly, after about 15 minutes into the sensory deprivation experience, it becomes difficult to distinguish whether your eyes are open or closed, or whether you're sleeping or awake. It's what makes the environment conducive, at least for me, to producing very introspective, almost psychedelic experiences naturally. But after what I imagine was something like 40 minutes in the float tank, the vision, if you can call it that, arrived. A low-resolution image appeared on the blank canvas of complete darkness that surrounded me. Now, I'm no psychoanalyst by any stretch, but I imagine the effect of removing sensory stimulus might be described as something like giving your subconscious a place to come to the surface and project itself. What I saw was a sword, broken into many shards. Almost instantly, I knew what I was seeing. But it wasn't until the drive home that I knew what it was saying. For that to make sense, however, we must first take a detour. One of the subplots in The Lord of the Rings centers around the figure formerly known as Strider, Aragorn, stepping out of his identity as a mere ranger and into his place as the king of men. In the first movie of the film adaptation, we are introduced to a sword by the name of Narsil, possessed by a character named Elendil, good guy, during the great battle against Sauron, bad guy. At one point, Sauron slays Elendil and, in the process, breaks the sword. Seeing the slaughter unfold, Isildur, son of Elendil and fellow good guy, rushes to fallen Elendil's side. Just as Sauron is about to end the line of Elendil and take Isildur's life, Isildur grabs the hilt of the broken and now jagged sword and slices the one ring, the ring to rule all rings, from Sauron's finger. It's a heroic move that wins the war for the human race in Tolkien's universe. The audience does not see the sword again until the soon-to-be Fellowship of the Ring, centuries after the great battle, arrives at Rivendell, land of the elves. The dark powers of Sauron are somehow stirring again, and Aragorn is taking some time to rest near the mythical shards of Narsil. A fellow man, Boromir, enters in awe of the broken blade, and runs his finger along the hilt until he cuts himself and drops his sword. Surprised it remains sharp even after 3,000 years. Aragorn, who is watching the entire encounter, walks up to the sword out of respect, picks up the broken hilt, looks at it for a second, and then returns it to its rightful spot. As he stands there, staring at this symbol of his ancestral potential, both good and bad, Arwen, half-elven Lady of Rivendell, steps into the scene. "Why do you fear the past? You are Isildur's heir, not Isildur himself," she says, trying to ease Aragorn's fears following his memory of how Isildur took the One Ring after his heroic deed and was corrupted by it. "The same blood flows through my veins, the same weakness," Aragorn responds. It is clear at this stage of the journey that Aragorn is not yet ready to accept the burden of what he might be, a king. The sword slips back into the unseen background until the final movie, The Return of the King, 2003, when Elrond, the half-elven Lord of Rivendell, comes to Aragorn with a reforged Narsil, engraved with the runes, Anar Nanyi Andurel Aini Narsil I Misil Elendilo, Lurkuvanten I Moli Mordorio Isel, or, "Son, I am Andurel, who was once Narsil, sword of Elendil. The slaves of Mordor shall flee from me. Moon." With Sauron's armies marching on Minas Tirith and the situation looking grim for the race of man, Elrond presents the reforged sword to Aragorn and tells him, "Leave the ranger behind. Become who you were born to be." This call is about the fact that when Elrond first met Aragorn, when he was first recruited to join the Fellowship, Aragorn was known as Strider, a ranger who patrolled the borders. It is that identity, that version of himself, that Elrond asks Aragorn to leave behind. With these words, Elrond is telling Aragorn to dare to accept the burden of his birthright. And this time, unlike Aragorn's first encounter with the broken blade, he decides to take it. He answers the call, using the sword to command an army of the dead that wipes out Sauron's invading forces assailing Minas Tirith. In doing so, he becomes a living avatar of his ancestral potential, winning the war for Middle-earth and accomplishing what Isildur had done ages before. Like Aragorn, we too have our version of the space between Ranger and King, between who we are and who we could be. Friedrich Nietzsche had a saying, "If you look long enough into the abyss looks back into you." This line has been interpreted a great many ways, but the most powerful, in my opinion, has to do with becoming aware of the distance between your life and the life you're capable of. The line in this context says something like this: if you want to become everything that you could be, then you have to first stare honestly into the abyss, where you are forced to look directly at the darkest and least admirable aspects of your life and nature. The longer you have the courage to look for, the more clearly the divide between who you are and who you could be, if you started acting courageously and with integrity in all things, comes into focus. Like Simba seeing his dead father, King Mufasa, in the depths of the pond, we see the great figures of the past, symbolic of the ancestral potential sleeping dormant within us. And as this untapped potential makes itself known, we begin, like the narrator in Rainier Maria Rilke's poem, The Archaic Torso of Apollo, poem below, to feel uneasy. We follow the observer examining the statue of Apollo, struck by its brilliance and beauty despite its cracks and flaws. After scanning every inch, the narrator can't help but feel as if the statue is, in turn, examining him. This object of beauty, like the abyss, is staring back at the starer, who is suddenly aware of his own faults and failures in the presence of such beauty. We cannot know his legendary head, with eyes like ripening fruit, and yet his torso is still suffused with brilliance from inside, like a lamp in which his gaze, now turned to low, gleams in all its power. Otherwise the curved breast could not dazzle you so, nor could a smile run through the placid hips and thighs to that dark center where procreation flared. Otherwise, this stone would seem defaced beneath the translucent cascade of the shoulders, and would not glisten like a wild beast's fur, would not from all the borders of itself burst like a star. For here there is no place that does not see you. You must change your life. You must change your life is the command that echoes up from the well of eternity, where all of the heroic ancestors, the ones whose identity you could incorporate, remain. There's a story told by Plutarch in Parallel Lives and Suetonius in Lives of the Caesars, which tells of Julius Caesar's encounter with the abyss and its command. Caesar, at the age of 30, comes to the Pillar of Hercules, where the Mediterranean flows into the ocean, and wandered into a nearby temple dedicated to the mythical Greek hero who had advanced far beyond the pillars that were now named after him. In the temple, Caesar stopped in front of the statue of Alexander the Great and sighed deeply, as if weary of his sluggish life, for having performed no memorable actions at an age at which Alexander had already conquered the world. Standing in the presence of greatness, even if not goodness, Caesar felt its eyes sizing him up and finding him wanting. He received the message: you must change your life. You must take on the color of those you admire and awaken the sleeping king inside you. And maybe, just maybe, the halls of the timeless will wait to receive you, and your heroes will one day ask you where you're from. The call of potential. Before we move on to an overview of the hero's journey, I want to offer one final thing for you to keep in mind as you move through this book. Follow your curiosity, because curiosity is simply an invitation from your potential. This is why this book aims, in part, to fuel your curiosity. As we journey through the overview of the greatest heroes of myth that history has ever offered, I want you to witness yourself and observe at what points you find yourself curious about a particular figure, eager to learn more. Once this curiosity reveals itself, put this book down and follow it. Pull up Wikipedia, watch a YouTube video, type something into Google. Let the stories that call you fill you, so that what you find best in them might live through you. Your curiosity will lead you where you need to go. Let me explain. If you look at the logo for This Way to the Stars, you'll see something that looks like the winged snitch, the round ball of chaos, the alchemical container of all potential, from Harry Potter, above the owl, the symbol of wisdom, which carries the staff of Hermes, the symbol of healing and wholeness. Both the golden ball and the staff are associated with the winged god Hermes, known as Mercury to the Romans, the messenger from the realm of heaven and guide of souls in the underworld. In ancient times, Hermes, Mercury, represented those things that inspire us and capture our interest and attention involuntarily. The spirit that draws one almost irresistibly to some activity, person, place, or event. We might think of Hermes as the voice and form of potential within, like the round ball of chaos with its golden wings trying to lead us to places necessary for our development. We might even say that what appears to us as curiosity is just the cries of our fully actualized self trying to get our attention and deliver instructions. And to receive the call or tug of Hermes is the same thing as receiving an invitation from our potential, calling us to become who we might be. So, as you move through this book, I want you to be mindful of the tugs at your spirit when you perceive them. Do not dismiss your curiosity when it reaches out of the stories toward you. Do not ignore it in the interest of finishing a section or chapter. In that moment, I want you to listen and follow the tug as far as it leads. Consider it a call from Hermes, an invitation toward integration of self and development of psyche, a lamp along a dark path leading you home. All that is gold does not glitter. Not all those who wander are lost. The old that is strong does not wither. Deep roots are not reached by the frost. From the ashes a fire shall be woken. A light from the shadows shall spring. Renewed shall be the blade that was broken. The crownless again shall be king.